Line 4, Steve in Pennsylvania.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Hi, Steve.
Just a quick question. If there is no God, does it really matter what I believe?
Well,
Yes.
who should what you believe matter to? I mean,
Yeah,
it should at the very least matter to you, right?
Matter to whom?
Yeah.
To me, does it matter what I believe?
I think it probably matters to you.
I mean, well, but that would be a question for you to answer.
Whether or not it matters to me depends on how much you leverage those beliefs to infringe on my rights.
Okay.
But I mean, if you disagree with me, but your disagreement doesn't affect me in any way, I probably don't care that much.
Okay.
Well, can you list a particular thing that you do believe, and then we'll discuss whether or not it matters to you?
I guess I believe I hear your side, and I hear the other side as people call in, and it seems to me that this is an endless dispute that doesn't appear to ever be resolved or proved.
People don't always agree on stuff. That doesn't mean that the discussion isn't worth having.
Right, but what I'm just saying is it seems like this is an endless dispute. And that
do you think there's probably a right answer, ultimately?
Well, I guess for us who are seeking the truth and we see these different sides, it doesn't seem like you can prove either side.
No, but I'm not talking about what you can prove. I mean, do you think there ultimately is a right answer? Do you think that God either exists or doesn't exist?
Well, I'm not sure. That's why I'm trying to seek the truth.
You're not sure if God either exists or doesn't exist?
We're not,
it could be neither exist, both exist and not exist?
Yeah, we're not asking you which of those two things you believe. We're just asking in a general sense, do you think that... Do you accept the notion that? Do you accept as just a general principle that
things are either true or not true?
Yeah, that it is the case. You know, regardless of which position has the best evidence and proof for it, it is the case as just a matter of reality that either a deity or God or supernatural universe-creating force that is intelligent and purposeful, what have you, either something like that exists or it does not. That would be a condition. That would just be, and I'm not saying, I'm not asking you to commit to either the yes or no on that. Just to be aware that that's a fact. That either that thing exists or it doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I do computer programming. So binary. It's 0 or 1. It's on or it's off. It is or it isn't.
So something is true or not true, and I think as a general principle, we are interested in figuring out how to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible.
And that's the key right there.
The discussion is one among several ways of trying to sort that truth out. I mean, you have scientific questions where we can actually gather evidence and construct a model that will help us figure out whether things are true and false. And then you have some more abstract questions that may be too difficult for science to give an answer to right now. And some of those fall in the philosophical realms, like what's the best way to live your life? And those are things that are also endlessly argued, but I think you can agree that given that we don't really accept slavery in our society anymore, that discussion sometimes moves forward, even if it's never 100% resolved.
But is that really a true statement? I mean, living here in the United States...
Yeah, there are slaves in other countries, or, I mean, people who are effectively
even in
slaves.
This country, when I go to work and I see who's cutting the grass, it's not mostly Americans.
Yeah, but they're not slaves. There's a difference.
But if you want to talk in a philosophical sense, the fact that they may just be trapped in a go-nowhere work cycle where the long legendary American dream, right? That you started the body, that you actually have upward mobility, and everyone will someday have a 2-story house and a chicken in every garage and a car in every pot and all that sort of thing. It's not maybe that's not a thing that is available to everyone, and you can just be stuck in this kind of nothing treadmill of work until death. So maybe,
Yeah, but
philosophically, if you want to refer to that as slavery.
I think it's unrealistic to think there's not slavery here in the United States and in any country.
Yeah, but regardless of that,
There's
I think we
always
can
people
all
who work
agree
in
that
there.
the
Yeah.
discussion is healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, even if you cannot reach a clear and concise answer to a thing, like that, it is worth having the discussion, I think, because it keeps you engaged, it keeps you passionate about these topics. Whether you want to talk about, slavery, wage slavery, or the existence of a deity, or what have you, I think it's important to be engaged, because otherwise, what are you doing with your life, right? I mean,
Right.
And I think that's so.
But I'm struggling because as I called in, the calls are screened and you only give one side of a view, and I guess I never heard of this before, but he told me something about Pascal's wager.
Yeah, I don't see how that's
what-
relevant.
Yeah, I mean, that's not really necessarily having to do with what we're talking about. I mean, Pascal's wager is a particular.
That's what the person who screened my call mentioned, and
well-
I've never heard of what is
Okay, well, maybe
Pascal's
then
We
wager?
didn't hear that conversation, and neither did the audience. So.
Yeah, we don't know.
What?
Maybe you were misunderstood when you were talking to the call screener. But anyway, that's not to do with anything we're talking about right now.
What is Pascal's wager?
It's a poor argument for the existence of God, basically.
What is the argument? I've never heard this terminology before.
Oh, do you want to go ahead and give it?
Okay. Pascal's wager was invented by, I believe, a 17th century mathematician named Blaise Pascal, who said that whether there's a God or not, it's best for me to place a bet on the notion that I do believe in God. Because if I am right, then I get eternal life and happiness and avoid hell. And if I'm wrong, it doesn't matter. Which is kind of what you were saying, I guess. But
Well, yeah, but we weren't really.
but there are problems with that.
talking about that in that context. But yeah.
You should look it up. I'm sure there's an excellent Wikipedia article. Or better yet, ironchariots.org.
But generally, I think that these kinds of conversations, even if we can't resolve them right away, are worth having, simply because people do reach conclusions without the definite hard proof, the irrefutable evidence. They embrace beliefs for any number of reasons, whether it's just a sense of emotional comfort, or maybe they legitimately think that they've reached the right answer to something, even if it's a topic that continues to be disputed. And from that, those beliefs inform actions. And so that's when it becomes important. So talking about the question of gods, whether or not we can never really finally just get right down to the hard truth about whether there is one or not, the world we happen to live in is a one in which a great many people do firmly believe that a God exists, and a tiny subset of those people do things like, hey, let's form a club and call ourselves ISIS and go around slaughtering people. So that's a real consequence, and so we need to continue to have the discussion, because certain people don't play well with others, and they use these beliefs to justify certain things, and so we need to always be engaged in the discussion. So
Alrighty.
that's what I think.
I want to thank you for your time. And
Thanks for the question and the call.
I hope we all find out what the truth is.
But even if we don't, we can live with that.
Okay. Take care.
Thanks.
Take care. God is a big giant
one.
Pikachu.
What?
That's we all die and we see Pikachu.
Oh, yes.
And he gives us a big hug.
We're like, Pikachu, what is the meaning of life? And he's like, Pika.
And it all makes sense in one.